Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Good afternoon. How are you? Apa kabar semua? Welcome everyone to the session again. Thanks for sharing your valuable time to join this session. My name again is Faiz. I'll be your moderator for today. For your information, this is the 5th webinar session brought to you by Chemical Productivity Nexus Group, Central Region Office, MPC. For your information, Nexus Group act as a union organization to assist company in more human touch, providing consultation and discussion among professional industries to gain more insight of matters that affect your companies and findings. Before I move on, I would like to go through with you how this session works. This is the 1-hour session. In today's program, it will be divided into 2 sessions. The first session, we call it the talk, and the second session is the Q&A session. But in between the session, the audience are allowed to ask questions. For your information, everyone here is under a mute mode. So how to ask the question? If you see there is a question, inside on your right hand side of the screen. Okay, you can type there, and the question will be read by me at the end of the session. Okay, we move on to today's session. Designing a strategy. Having an export strategy is an integral and necessity element for a company with plans to become an exporter. An export strategy must take into consideration all the necessary elements of export and must be integrated with your company's overall business plan. Align export activities with daily operation and avoid conflicts between the domestic and international activities. Understand the areas where you have a strong competitive advantage. These areas may include your technology, your staff, your business system, and your financial position. Determine how best to use them to achieve the export goals. Also identify any weaknesses in your organization and address them appropriately by guided to the national export strategy if need be, and take advantage of the support given by the government where possible. Identify the possible risks and plan to mitigate them. Pay attention to changing international trade environments, including WTO, regional and bilateral trade agreements. Let's join Mr. Haridass Nagalingam shares his experience in export and provide us with practical tips and strategy. Before I pass this session to our Honorable Sifu, I would like to share a little bit of him. Mr. Haridass Nagalingam has more than 30 years experience in trade development as an expert consultant. He currently acts as trade development advisory locally and internationally. Among of the positions that Mr. Haridass hold are Manager, Trade Promotion Division, Trade Commissioner, Western Europe, Trade Commissioner Jakarta, Deputy Director, East Asia Division, all here in Madrid, and Deputy Director, Trade and Facilitation Division, Market Integration Directorate, ASEAN Secretariat for ATIGA, and ASEAN Custom Transit System Project Manager. And the list continues. Academically, he possesses a Master in Business Administration from Swiss German University and Bachelor of Social Science Economics from USM. Before I move on, okay, like the other week, I would like a favor from the participant to answer a question posed, which will be on your screen in a few seconds. So there is a two questions. We would like you to answer both. So the first question is question posed. Okay, the first question is, if you are already exporting, how did you get your first order? Just select between the answers and just click at your screen. Okay, we have a few. Another few seconds. Any other response? Okay, thank you. Any more? All right, okay, we move to the second question. Okay, the second question is, do you have an export strategy or export plan in your organization? Yes or no? Okay, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we move on to our session. Without further ado, I would like to welcome you, Mr. Haridass Nagalingam. Hi, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for introducing. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our 5th session. And I hope that some of you at least have been with us from the beginning. Today we have a 15 registered audience. And I hope we have 8 in now. I hope the rest of them join us. And today, as you see on the screen, we have done 4 sessions, and today is the 5th session. And today's topic will be designing an export strategy. We have 2 more, which we will discuss in the coming sessions. And just to recap on what we did in the last one, we spoke about what is an export strategy. Export strategy will contain all these elements that we will discuss today. Why export, what to export, where to export, who to export, when to export, how to export, financing exports, expansion. We have discussed all this in detail. If you see our notes, it will be there. And I've also shared with you a video link. I hope you had the time to see this link. Like I said, I have accepted these links from various sources. Some of it not necessarily Malaysian, but will give you an indication of what we're going to study. And what was if you have not seen the video, the takeaway from the video was it discusses how and the need to develop a strategy for export business. Export, because of its global nature, poses numerous challenges and complication and risk, if I may add. And we have discussed that before. And so a detailed strategy document outlining the information needed for a successful export promotion is crucial. You put a foundation, like I mentioned, this is a foundation for export, and everything, it becomes a reference document for you. More comprehensive your strategic document is, the chances of failure are less. Mainly because you would have known the failure coming or the challenges coming, and would have taken measures to mitigate those challenges. The video also talks about a 1 year, a time period, ideally a 1 year time period, or depending on your organization. The document, the strategy document, gives you focus, working towards a set objective, and empowering the organization to make the correct decision. What else? The strategy document captures the macro picture of the organizational plans. What is the company heading to? What else they are doing, and how will export affect them? And export strategy also helps to manage disappointments. Like I mentioned, it's a risk, and there could be disappointments, but the strategy and the document properly planned can help you manage disappointments and leverage on them to most probably make it better. It acts as a foundation, I mentioned earlier, for future export plans. It helps you track expenses, ROI. It actually helps you also evaluate. It helps you also with the proper resource management. Okay, now, what else? What is a prerequisite for creating a strategy? It speaks on that. You must understand your business. You must know what market research you're going to do, assess your competition, set objectives. I'm running through this a bit fast because we have other slides to look at, and you can read this, but each one of this is work to be done. It's just not reading everything. You have to pick out one which affects your company and start working out details. For example, detailed financial aspect of your company that you have to put in your strategy, where you stand, what are your financial resources, what you need to do, especially with when it comes to exporting, and also pricing strategy. Pricing strategy will also be in your strategy document. Choose a marketing mix. What do you want to do? How you want to market your product? Is it online, face-to-face, niche marketing, targeted marketing? You know, that's what the video spoke about. And if you have not seen the video, please try to get some time and look at it again. And it comes from people with experience. Okay, to our topic today, designing an export strategy. Export strategy is essentially a component of your business plan. You have a overarching business plan, your company's business plan. So export strategy, it could be a component. The other one could be a domestic marketing strategy, is also a business part of your business plan. Expansion plan is also part of your business plan. Product innovation is also part of your business plan. Take into consideration all internal and external factors. We have spoken about them, how the environment can help, can make a difference between failure of exporting, and success of exporting. The questions that you might want to answer is exporting consistent with your company? Is it part of your overall plans? Is it something that you just picked up and say, somebody said, okay, come, send me this product, and you started exporting? What demands will exporting have on your company's key resources? You have to allocate resources. This we have discussed from the beginning, management buy-in. And what are the expected benefits? The cost, and also what company resources would company resources be better used for developing new domestic business? What if it doesn't work? You know, you're going to take something from somewhere and put it inside here, so the other part is going to lose the resources. So these are thoughts that should come to your mind. Why do I need a strategy? People have asked, why do I need a strategy? Why should I develop one? Is this only for big companies? I'm a small company, I'm a small SME, I don't need all this strategy. I will go along with the flow. Fine, you can still do it, but it's critical to analyze your motives for entering an overseas market. The key questions to ask are, what does my company want to gain from exporting? Put down the question and write down some notes. Is an export program consistent with the company's goals? Is it part of your overarching charter, company charter? Do we have the resources, financial and human, to execute the export program? Are our products and services exportable, or are major modifications needed to your product? Like I said, this is going to be a bit of a monologue with you all, but generally these lectures are given on a face-to-face basis, so there'll be a lot of questions and answers. But stick along and you will get some information, at least some little inputs into your export program. Okay, this one we discussed. The first thing that you will want to know is why export. We have discussed this in the first module. There must be a reason, and why. And I specifically mentioned there's no one specific reason. Not that revenue earning is not the only reason. There could be many reasons. You can sit and think about it. Is it for expanding sales? Is it to have a more stable customer? Because all this will change your strategy, how you price your product, and which market you want to go to, and what you want to do in the market. All that will depend on this. Why export? Are you having problem with seasonal demand? Is that why you want to go into export? Are you responding to competition? You have local domestic competition very strong. You think that you want to go. So if that is the reason, then your strategy will change. Same thing, accessing new technology for overseas markets. You have a new factory and you have new technology and you want to use it to expand your market share. So all this is very important for you before you even want to go into export market.
Mr. Haridass, sorry,
Yes,
one question. We have
sure.
discussed on why we should have an export strategy, right? So
Yep.
will a company fail if they don't have an export strategy?
Okay, I cannot say that the company will fail, but the chances are higher, sad to say, because with this current situation, there's lots of things going on in this world, laws and all those things, environment with this COVID, and even your suppliers are having problems. So something on paper put down clearly that it's what you're going to do when this happens, or that is going to happen is important. You can, and what you will do if you don't have a strategy or a plan is that you will actually do ad hoc measures. It's like putting out the fire burns here, you run with a pail of water, you pour, and then you come back and see another fire. So you can do without what the strategy document is actually gives you a guidance and sequential steps to follow that you yourself have laid down, and all your company knows, everybody in your company should know this is what we are going to do when this happens. It gives you an opportunity to evaluate and monitor. With a document, you can make a checklist, you can refer to it, and find out what we are going to do next. And if you're not there, someone else will have to do it. It gives you an opportunity to, it allows you to look and analyze retrospectively, meaning what has happened before, how we can change it now, and all those kind of leverage you will get. It allows you to look and it allows you to address your challenges. That means it's happening. Address your challenges objectively and in an organized manner, not putting out fire. And this document later we realize that it actually helps you with your financial position. Banks would want to know what are your plans. You can share this document with your financiers, say this is what I'm going to do. And I'm sure they'll be impressed that you have taken some time to organize yourself and have a strategy and backup plans. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, clear, Mr. Haridass.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Okay, what are the factors to consider in designing an export strategy? There's so many things. I'm just going to put a few. These are things that you have to sit down and think with your company, brainstorm, get outside expertise to look at it objectively. Because sometimes if you are there and you might not realize what's happening outside. I always talk about national export strategy, and you can align your export strategy with the national export strategy, and you can take advantage of the support given by the government, talk to Mart Trade, or even I'm not sure how much SME, how much the association supports you or SME body, but look at the national strategy and where your product stands. Is it one of those promoted products, and how you can take advantage of that? That's important. Your company's business strategy is important. Where you want to be in 1 year's time, 10 years time, 5 years time. What will you do if something goes wrong? So I know it's a voluminous document. You might say that it's very theoretical. I'll just jump. But again, I stress that the world is changing. There are new things that are coming into town, into play. And if you make one small change, it could change your business fortunes greatly. And it's the game of staying in front of your competitor. So these are things that make you stand in front of your competitor. Be guided by international changing environments. Like, for example, what are WTO requirements? What are regional and bilateral trade agreements able to provide you? These things can go into strategy. For example, you can say that I'm going into the ASEAN market. Pop, that's a strategy. Next one, I'm going to see what my product gets out of this ASEAN agreement. Now, RCEP is there. It's even a bigger market. At one time, it's ASEAN +6. Now, RCEP is there. It's a big market. So although India has not officially come in yet and they are a bit reluctant, but still, again, imagine the volume. 570 million people in ASEAN plus a lot. So your strategies can be based on that. You can take competitive advantage of your product. Malaysia makes it better quality, makes it a bit cheaper. And in regional and global markets, you can even sell Malaysia as a brand. That's the advantage you have. A lot of people look for Malaysian products because Malaysia has made a name. That's part of your strategy. Going to sell Malaysian-made products to this country because they have accepted as a quality product. Overarching strategy. And then you have to be very clear, goal-minded. You have to put up your goals to be achieved, time, and that's all. In your strategy document, you will look at what are the technological advances in aspect, how are you going to use technology to move your product overseas. This could be types of marketing, this could be types of innovative product. So these things can go into your strategy. Trade-related information is crucial. Where are you going to get? What kind of information are you going to use? And if there's so much information outside in this world today that you will find it very difficult to see what is important unless you have staff with knowledge, skills, and experience in export promotion. All this, there are financial constraints if you want to get these things done, but build it as a step-by-step, as a bricklaying process as you go forward, as a foundation that you're building. Financial resources, I mentioned earlier why strategy can help you work with the banks, with financial institutions. At least you have a good proposal, you have a good strategy to tell the bank that, hey, look, I have this, and I know I can do this, and this is my plan. So financial resources and ability to increase budget for export is also something that you include in your strategy. A marketing plan is important, and you will have this as one of your strategic development. For example, a simple line like my marketing plan, the company's marketing plan will be based on one, web-based marketing, two. So you can go back and work, okay, web-based marketing, what are you going to do? If you don't put it in paper, only one person might know about it. And again, I always stress, we will talk about this in the lecture, risk management plan. Risk management plan is so important that many fail to see its importance because it gives you a plan B situation. What happens if this happens? What can I do, or what should I do? So this will be part of your export strategy. What are the essential elements? Anyway, before I continue, if you have any question, just type it through. Let's see what we can do with the questions at the end of the period. And we will try to answer those questions. See, an essential element developing some strategy is to identify the key factors that have influenced your decision. Going back again, why export, who to export, where to export, all this will be part of your strategy. Your decision, why you made this. Is this because an out of blue decision? Is this because that your company wants to do it, or you are telling yourself, okay, I'm going to go out of the domestic market and see what I can do overseas? So draw up a list of all these issues that have prompted you to export. Draw up a list of targets to be achieved, again, part of the strategy. Pick low-hanging fruits. I always say this, if you're going to be an exporter and this export decision came out not because somebody has asked you to sell the product from overseas, but you are going up, you have to be a bit more careful. Which target, which country, what you need to do, which product, okay? And the list that you put down will be the basis for your development. You will discuss this list with your management, your staff, your technical staff, and everyone will put in their opinion and say, yes, we can do it, or no, we can't do it. Of course, the final call comes with the top management. People who are on the lower ranks might not understand your overarching policy, or overarching objectives and ideals for the company. Some might say, oh no, we can't want to do it because I think it's too difficult and we don't have the people. You'll get all those negative things coming in. But as a management, you need to put your priorities straight to them. And once they buy in, it's important that they will follow. And from this strategy, we will discuss this later, your export plan, which is the implementing part of it, will out. There are also strong advantages to have a written strategy. It need not be long. It must be simple, understood, and accepted by all company members. That's the key word. Accepted by all company members. They must understand. I have stressed this. I've spoken to this. In fact, we have done some programs for companies who are in the exporting mode. That these programs actually is directed towards the whole company on why the company needs to be export ready. Everybody from the top management to the security head attended this workshop to explain to them where their role will play, because it's not the job of the export department or marketing department alone. You will realize that everyone should know what are the targets set by the company, and other members who are not involved in export will have to understand and accept this is the role they will play. Because if the storekeeper does not package and store the materials properly, the other side, your buyer, will not be happy. Then it strikes back to the whole company. So this is where everybody needs to know and accept. Maybe initially there might be a lot of resistance, but it's not, again, it's not the job of the export department only. The whole company needs to understand. And then it serves as a guide. It binds staff commitment. Again, I'm talking about staff to the company's exports efforts. So everybody should know why. I'm sure there is a lot of complaint now. Only the marketing department goes out where we are not going, but that's not it. That's what made to be understood. Should be made to your staff should be made to understand. Everybody has got a role in it. Okay, let me just go to the next slide. Designing and export, continue. The effort that you make, I always believe that this is a foundation. Putting up a strategy is a foundation, and it's like outlining and defining your goals at an early stage will be repaid as you continue the journey, the export journey. That means the first one always is tough. The next ones will come in easier and easier, and you go into, like I mentioned earlier, you will start, and then you start to walk. Once you start walking, you will not forget to walk. But what you will do next is you will start running. And then when you start running, you will start, it's just like a 100-meter racer. And then you start timing yourself to see how fast you can run. So that's the journey that we are talking about. Exporters, successful exporters have a clear idea why they want to export. Again, I'm repeating, go back and see why export and what kind of benefits they expect. If you know why you're exporting, like I said, if you see the 5 or 6 areas that I mentioned, you will, if you look at it closely and constructively, you know what each of the thing will do to you when you want to export. Is it just for revenue? Then you will have a different strategy. Is it because you want to expand your brand and make your brand well known overseas? Then you will have to look at a different strategy. Your markets will be different. You know, is it competitors? You will look at it differently. Because if you want to take care of competitors, then you want to look at product innovation, pricing, cost, everything will come into the picture. So think about that. Why you want to export? You know, a sound strategy actually marks professionalism. I mentioned this earlier. A good document, well documented, clean, clear document provides valuable benefits when you're dealing with banks and customers and support agencies. Tomorrow you walk to Martrade or any other agency and say, I have this strategy, I have this plan. How can Martrade play a role? At least they will be happy to tell you, okay, this is your strategy, this is what you want to do in this market. We will try to work with you on this market. That means you have done your work. You just don't walk into market and say, give me a list of names from this country. I want to export to this country. which you think will be better? A strategy document explaining to them this is what I want to do. Madrid can play a role in this particular area. I think I need your help. I think this will be very impressive. It will be really impressive for you to tell them, I have done my homework and I know where I'm going to do and why I'm going to export there. It's not like, oh, give me a list. I want to go here. I want to stand there. No, target, focus, do a strategic plan. So these are very interesting if you do it that way, and it'll be there forever. It's not like a fly by night thing, and it provides direction. I told you all your staff must be involved in its creation and also implementation. It's a critical factor in embedding an export culture in your company from the beginning. That you are planned to do everything from packaging, quality management. You can sell the same product domestically. That means your product that you sell overseas also sells. Again, you are company owners. You will be taking care of costs where you want to cut costs. But my advice, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Okay? At this critical time, a small difference between you and your competitor will go a long way. Everything from customer management to packaging will go a long way. Make this strategy readily available for your staff. Again, on a regular basis, they can have a look at it, have discussions over it every month or so to look at where you are, what you have done. Do we need to change the strategy? What are the problems on the field? What are the problems with the storing department? What are the problems with production department? Can they meet your demands? What's the problem marketing is having? Is our packaging correct? Can we look at how we can manage the packaging without cutting costs? Without increasing costs. These are things this document can be helpful to you. And conditions can change. We spoke about this quite a bit. Conditions can change. Sorry, okay. Conditions can change, and your strategy will need to adapt. We will talk about this a bit later. Adapt and shifting environments, both in Malaysia and overseas market. I don't have to stress this. You know how this works. So you have to have a keen eye. Your marketing team has to get all the information, collect and collate, and see how it going to affect your product. Your market is already there. That country is going through some turmoil, or that country is changing its rules, or cost exporting to that country has changed. So all this you have to pay attention to. It's a living document. I mentioned this earlier. It should be flexible enough to be modified when unexpected situations emerge in the economic environment. As your export business matures, you will become more aware of the external factors. That's what I said, aware of the external factors and how they influence your product and your strategy. And you have to find ways to manage and adopt them as you grow bigger. You are small companies now, you're starting to grow, and you'll find that you have a bigger responsibility to understand what happens in the world. External issues can include availability of finance. Your bankers might change. Your banking rates might change. You might have more expenses or less expenses. If rates drop, what are you going to do? Import regulations will change. Your logistics, logistics conditions could change. Unexpected competition, technology shifts, and logistics, like I mentioned earlier. All these are things that you've got to put in mind and put it in the strategy to see what happens. Anticipating change is a vital factor in the export planning process. This is very important. You need to know if something is happening or going to happen. This is where your marketing team or your whole organization will have to come in and say, hey, I read that this country that we're expecting, during a meeting, somebody might say, I read that in this country we're exporting to, they're going to have this problem, or they're losing their currency rate is so fluctuating, blah, blah, blah. So from that, you can pick up and say, hey, look, let's have a closer look how it's going to affect our export. The strategy requires clarity and clarity in objectives. Again, I'm repeating this, and also targets at a broad level. This is what you have to do. Okay, let's go on.
Mr. Haridass, one question.
Yes, yes.
What are the circumstances that will make we change the strategy documents?
Good question. I just mentioned a few things there, but let me tell you, the document is not carved in stone. You all must understand that it is not. It is a fluid document and must be flexible enough to add new elements and remove obsolete or redundant elements or strategies. You have to see the political, economic, and cultural environment. I spoke that a little bit earlier, and that changes all the time, especially the current situation. Company environment also changes. That you have to see. Your own company environment might change. Change in management, change in direction, objective might change, products might change. So all this is something that you might want to look at. But for a strategy to be effective, like I said, flexibility is something that must be there always. But you must have some kind of a timing. All right, my strategy will last me a year, and I'm going to achieve this by end of the year. Next year, we will look at a different angle for the strategy. So that is how you have to look at. So these are circumstances. Strategy needs to be looked at and changed. If, of course, the change will come from the top management right down to the management will decide, okay, we're going to do this. All the people that are involved in it will be informed, and that if there's a feedback, that's good. You know, maybe they might say, okay, no, we don't need to change this because I think we still have the capacity to meet. You know, our capacity can go higher. Maybe if we squeeze, we can sell more and sell it cheaper. We can produce more for less. You know, our fixed costs are going to be same because we already have the machinery and whatever is needed. Maybe the non-fixed costs might change, but you know, those are things that I'm giving you an idea. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Haridass.
All right. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump in from strategy to plan. Why plan? An export plan is actually an implementation document. If you consider the strategy as a charter, the plan is an implementation document, and many companies enter export as a result of random buyer inquiry. This is what I asked my question, how did you get your first buyer? And often succeed through responding to market demand. But pursuing an export program through careful planning will ensure that the company, one, acts on well-researched information, not just jumping into it and say, okay, I'm going to export because somebody has asked me. Even if somebody has asked you, look at it. What is the long-term prospect? And the buyer might find that after one importation, find that you're not suitable. Again, a company has analyzed and assessed the best options that's available. Identify constraints that impact the company's business. The company has the resources to become a viable exporter. The plan will tell you all this. The plan will create confidence with lenders. Again, bankers will come in and ask you, do you have a plan? And demonstrate the export program as viable. The plan will understand the competitive pressure and has plans to ensure the company maintains and increases its market share in the industry. So all this will go into the export plan. And export plan need not be detailed document. However, it has to be well constructed, to be read and acted by staff responsible for the execution. So it is an export plan is an offshoot, or rather an extension of the strategy. A strategy is an overarching plan for export. But the plan will put in more details. This is where the technical staff will come in, the implementers will come in and put in how we are going to implement the strategy. And it's recommended that you use each of the points in the export strategy to compose a plan. And then these elements could include the following: export plan methodology, create a plan summary with key headings and comments, and comments, the task list. All this, like I said, to some of you, it might be feels too theoretical, too much of paperwork. I don't think I want to do, but no, these are things that you have to do first time, and this will carry on forever as long as you're an exporter. Again, like I said, these things are all, this plan and a strategy are very flexible. It's very, it can change with your environment. So, but it will give you a sureness of what you're doing in the market, and you will go for a long time. If you just act on one shipment by one shipment, you will always have the same problems every time you do a shipment. Okay, allocate responsibility to key staff, ensure they have the resources to deliver against your program. These are part of the plan. Select products and services. Now, this goes back to your strategy itself. What products that you want to send, and then assess supply chain, supply capability, and necessary modifications for export is part of the plan. You know, your supplier will become part of your plan. When he can supply, how much he can supply, you know, what he can supply. So, and it will also tell you, one look at it, say whether he's a good supplier or not. Maybe you want to have a second look at another supplier because he's always late, or he's always has not met the quality that you needed, you know, or his prices are increasing. So this is where the plan helps you. You analyze the customer profile to provide pointers to the market selection, undertake market selection process as part of your plan. Flexibility and change management options must go into the plan. You have to undertake PESTEL for markets, SWOT for your products, you know, undertake more detailed market research, refine market selection analysis, develop a market entry strategy. This is also a big thing. We can go for a whole lecture. Develop a financial plan to undertake your export marketing, your bankers, how the payment is going to be, what credit term are you going to use? Is it based on a fixed one or flexible one, or based on market discrimination or buyer discrimination? You know, you can look at it, set budget targets, you know, and these are not one day. You can add on to this as you go along. So the document can change and improve over time.
Haridass,
Yes,
just
sir.
wondering, why you need an export plan when you already have an export strategy document?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, the strategy document is an overarching document. It's like a charter. It puts major objectives. The plan actually is an implementation document where more detailed elements will go in. Nevertheless, the plan and the strategy have to sync. Of course, the plan, the strategy is the mother document. The plan is a sub document or an implementation document. The difference that I see is the strategy will be designed and approved by the management. Management has to put their signature there and say, okay, this is our strategy, and the plan will be the domain of the implementers. They will add in the detailed facts and how it's going to be implemented. Of course, informing the management how the strategy is going to be implemented. So the inputs will come from lower level management and technical staff, and the implementation will be done by them. That's the basic difference between a strategy and an export plan.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
All right. Let me see. All right. The export plan will require an overall strategic objective. It's critical that you get your objective right, then work on detailed actions in the plan. For example, if your strategy says exports to make up 30%, this is an overarching by 22, then you will have developed the financial model to achieve these goals, which will be under the plan. A simple example, your strategy says exports to make 30% of sales, create the sales target for 21, 22, estimate financial staffing, test financial model with bank and advisors, create a broad mix of products that you want to export, commence market research, assign resources, and monitoring performance analysis. It's a simple example how you can go. So it's going to be a bit of paperwork in the beginning, but you will know exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. It need not be very detailed, but you still have to, if you have this, it will be a big help for you. Okay? All right. So just a few more slides before we finish. Some do's and don'ts in export planning. You have to establish the link between strategy and export plan. I mentioned this earlier. And your key members have signed on to the plan. That means they know what's happening. Seek good advice. Test your export plan with advisors and experts. Like I said, sometimes outside people will look at it in a different way. A bulky and inflexible document. Again, this is a no-no. Don't put too thick, too big, so nobody wants to read it. Everybody will do it as the way they want to do it. It should be implementable, friendly and implementable. Review the export plan regularly with your staff. Assign responsibility to staff. We discussed this before, and use realistic times. Don't rush. You will be the best person. I'm just giving you an idea, but you will be the best person to decide how much time you have and what you need to do. Review them. They often slip, meaning we will go, we will deviate from our original target. So you have to look at that. Make sure the various elements of your plan, export plan, sync with the strategy. I've mentioned that. Create scenarios for change circumstances. This will help you deal with changes like changes in government, new import taxes, new quotas, new rules, will change. So you might have to look at it differently. Develop an integrated timeline that draws together the activities that make up your export plan. Make sure that you have a human and financial resources necessary to execute the export plan. Ensure existing customers are not neglected. This is important in your gung-ho to go and export. Because remember, we go back to the earlier lectures, I said that your domestic market at the moment might be the most important that saves you. Why you're exporting is you want to go for many reasons. So you have to decide who's your priority, your overseas customers or domestic market customers. So it could be conflicting, but ensure that customers are not neglected, especially in the domestic market. That's where your bread and butter was at one point of time. Having said that, you could always change your direction. You're not interested in domestic market anymore. Then you go to concentrate on the export market. It's purely a management and purely a company decision. Okay. My last slide before we close is risk. We will discuss this risk again next session, but let me just touch on some of the risks that could happen in export strategy and planning. Making a decision to export is a risk by itself. Everybody knows. Our careful planning and addressing the inherent risk that is linked with the decision of exporting will provide a cushion when it occurs. Risk in this the risk related in this area could be like lack of information or wrong information. You get some wrong information and you decide to go into export. That's a risk. Finally, when you are into it, and then you realize that you have used wrong information or somebody has given you wrong information. So that's a risk. So always see that if that risk is countered with something. Okay, again, management support is crucial. If management does not support, means the risk of canceling the plan is high. So that's the risk. Starting to export without proper strategy and plan is also a high risk venture because you're just taking a boat and rowing out to the sea, hoping that you will see land somewhere. And then in the sea, you have so many elements to look at: the waves, the tide, the weather, the heat, everything. So be careful before you take the boat. That's what it says. Have a strategy. At least a strategy to come back. You know that you can't go, but somewhere along the way, say, this is it. I'm going to go back and start looking at it again. So from the onset, all risks are related. All risks related to starting out should be identified. Starting to export should be identified. This is what I said. Taking a boat and somebody says, hey, come, I want to buy from you. You take the boat and you start going towards him and you realize that there's so many things to do and to be careful of, including the buyer himself. There's so many horror cases where buyers have given you false hope. So it is a risk. But if you manage and tabulate your risk problems and find to mitigate that risk, you will be safe. So risk is a very important part that you might want to look at, and we will discuss this in our next session. It's quite a wide session, and it'll be an interesting session to see how people have managed the risk. But like I said, this is it's like a monologue, and we can't get you. Hopefully, one day we will sit in the same room and discuss how we can manage this sometime in the future. Anyway, so with this risk, let me go into my last slide. Okay, what's appearing in the screen is I've put in, if you can take a photograph or copy it from it later. This is another video that I put in, managing export risk. Have a look at it. I think it's about 12 minutes or less, I'm not sure, but if you have time, just have a quick look. We will start off with discussing this particular video in the next session. Hopefully, I'm just so sad that I have to run through a lot of this in a monologue. I'm sure those who are here, hopefully they have understood or rather picked up some valuable points for your use. Okay, Faiz, I'm done. And any questions before we follow?
Okay, Mr. Haridass, thank you very much. So far, we do not yet have any question. And for the attendees,
Okay.
if you want to ask question, you just can write the question in the question box on your apps. And then at the meantime, Mr. Haridass, I think we can go to the question polls that we have done it earlier, Mr. Haridass.
Okay, right.
Okay. Let us see the first question first. Question 1. Okay, share. Okay, the question 1. If you are already exporting, how did you get the first order? 50% says A, buyer contacting you, and 50% says C, through reference, and 0% says B, D, and E.
Okay, all right. Okay, next one.
The second question. Okay, we go to the second question. So, do you have an export strategy document? Okay, 100% say yes. Good. 100% say yes, Mr. Haridass. Okay, your comments.
Okay. Right, thanks. For the first one, I see that many of them have got their export strategy, export starting with buyer contacting them, and the other 50% is through reference. Okay, so I at the moment I'm not sure about the structure of your company who have answered, but that's one of the ways that you actually to work. But the downside of buyer contacting you is I hope it's through your publicity, but or via publicity or your web page and all those things. That means you have to now look at other ways of getting to the buyers, you know, marketing initiatives or going to exhibitions and checking out, participating in other forms of promotion, or targeting market, looking at a market, analyzing it, and say, okay, I will just take one country and find my own, make my own initiative to look at buyers, or looking at your current buyers, and hopefully they give you some kind of reference to other buyers in the region. Okay, my main reason of asking you this question is to just to get an understanding how Malaysian exporters are getting their own, but it's not a good reference with the number of people attending, but generally we know that buyer contacting you is one of the biggest. They wait for buyers to contact you. Okay. The second question, all said yes, isn't it, Faiz?
Yes, yes. Also yes, 100%.
Yeah, that's good. That means everyone have an idea of what is an export strategy, and it's just for you to fine tune it and put in more points that I've mentioned, and just to cover the gaps that are in your strategy document. And each one of the points can be looked into, like I said, a bit more further, and work along those lines. And maybe some of the points that we do a bit of research on what your company wants to do, and maybe make it more comprehensive. Okay. All right, that's my comments on the goals, and I don't have anything else to say. Like I said, our next session is on Friday, and we will talk about export risk, and hopefully we will have more participants during that session. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Haridass. I think it's about
Thank
time
you.
also. We have another one more minute, I think. So thank you everyone for joining us. I think it's about time now. So if participants want to download the handouts, you can download in the handouts box here at your apps at the right hand side. So I give you a few. I'll give you time to download it. You're not yet downloading. So, Ms. Haridass, we will see you again in the next session on Tuesday, 24th November.
Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock. The topic is risk management and mitigation plan. Okay. All right. I think it's about time. So thank you everyone. See you again in the next session. Stay safe. Bye. Stay at home. #Malaysia Productive. Bye-bye.